Air 5. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Season 4 Preseason show. A big pick for the show where the NFL handicapping experts, Big Danny D and Big Brian B, will give you the best 4 picks for NFL Sunday games. 2 include the Big Danny D guarantee and Big B guarantee, which you would have done better last year betting opposite of Brian. It was the Bob system. Bet opposite of Brian.
Well, instead of being the great handicappers, maybe we should be the handicapped handicappers.
Yeah, the handicapped handicapper.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to go with my gut this week. I don't care what anyone says. Guess what?
Yeah, he said that every week last year. Oh, my gut says the Bills.
But our greatest success is picking against rookie quarterbacks that have never played in the NFL before. I think we're like 100% on those picks. And then Brian, he gives the same commentary every time because he's like, how can you learn a playbook? You can't learn a playbook in 3 weeks. They're just going to load the box.
Yeah, and they go out and throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I should have took my advice again when Andrew Luck's first game because I think we picked them and they lost his first game.
Oh wow, 4-0.
So let's talk about the overall. So really, we had a winning season. I mean, are we all agreed on that?
Yeah, I mean it wasn't.
Like their season?
We're not gonna make any money off of that season, but we won. The Big B there needs to get a little bit better, and we would have had a good season.
But we only lost 3 in the playoffs. We were 8-11 in the playoffs.
Yeah, you did go 4-0 in the playoffs.
Oh, I'm not there yet. Hey, Mr. What do you call it? Hired talent. Let the producer do his job. We're not to the playoff segment.
Yeah, but
So going back to where I was, the regular season, see Brian at 6-10-1. He's trying to move on to the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's what he's trying to do.
If he goes the opposite, we have a good year.
Yeah, if you flip that on its head, you actually have a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm foiled again.
Yeah. He wants to forget about the debacle of gut choices during the regular season.
Yeah, so the Big D, you actually would have been in the money on the Big D for the whole season, no question. 12-5.
Thank you.
Good job.
The Big O is going away next year. That's been a failure. I firmly believe that you're crazy to bet on football, so I'm gonna back out.
Why would you say that? Now no one's gonna watch our show, shithead.
Hey,
they watch for the laughs.
Fuck the producer that way.
Shithead.
They watch for the entertainment. They don't watch for the picks.
That's right. They watch for Brian to be drunk.
And pick his gut. I pick my gut by a field goal.
I will do my Super Bowl pick, which is very good. So the playoffs, we were at 8-3 with a 4-0 from the Big B and a 3-1 from the Big D.
4-0, baby.
Yeah.
Baby.
I went 15-6 combined this past season. It's pretty good.
Yeah. When you add your playoffs to your regular season, you just increased your percent win.
Yeah, we're at 75%.
Yeah, you finished 500. 10-10.
Yeah.
And the Big O improved in the playoffs too.
Playoffs and the Super Bowl. So on the Super Bowl, we all picked the Ravens. I was kind of, if you go back to the tape, I was kind of pushing the issue at the end of the segment going, come on, are we calling it straight up or not? And Brian, at the end, he's like, no, I don't think they're going to win straight up, but there's no way that the 49ers are going to cover the spread, right? So, I mean, no one would stand up and say no straight up. I was calling for straight up, so I'm going to give myself credit for that, of course.
Give yourself that pat on the back.
All right, so I figured we'd each talk about last year, what we could do better.
No, I did fine. I cannot do anything better.
Well, I would like to speak for myself then.
Yeah, I think after a screen sharing event that we're going to have to shut down and recall. Although my video is still chopping, but that's all right. I think it's just chopping on my visual, but not on my actual replay of it, so no biggie. All right, so we don't want to hear your excuses, Brian, about why you suck.
Yeah, this ought to be
Maybe
good.
just like one highlight overall.
No, no. Number one, I want to say that Dan did a good job. 15-6, good year for Dan, and I think the playoffs were awesome, 8-3. So if you would have bet with us in the playoffs, you would have be rich, you know.
And bet with you in the playoffs, they would have gone 4-0.
Yeah, and they would have gone 4-0 with me. And the other thing I just want to say is Dan pointed out earlier very astutely about my big fat gut. I think I'm going to do this year. I'm just going to spend a little more time doing research, doing some more statistics, more putting a little more effort in than I did last year. I thought I could just wing it, so obviously that failed miserably.
You can look at more trends, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think also this year, the other change I want to make, and I talked to Dan about this before, I think he agreed. I don't think I talked to you about it yet, Scott. The first four games of the year are really hard to predict because teams are new. And I think we should probably pick more underdogs this year. I talked to Dan about it. Like let's say the Eagles against the Redskins. Let's say the Redskins are 4.5 favored. The Redskins could still win, but we might pick the Eagles just because it's the first game of the year. They're figuring each other out, and maybe the Eagles can cover. Maybe they only lose by 3. So I think last year we got burnt in especially the first 3 or 4 games, because we were picking the favorites, and a lot of the underdogs were winning. Especially the home underdogs were winning.
Yeah,
the home
definitely
underdogs.
A lot of home underdogs.
So I just thought I'd just let the audience know some strategies I'm changing this year. And
yeah, but let's not use the Eagles as an example. They were predicted to be the worst team in the NFL. Okay, let's tone it down a little bit here.
We're not talking about the Lions. Come on.
And Dan just needs to keep doing what he was doing.
That's right. Hopefully I can, but I'm no promises. I make no promises my success. It was pure luck.
So, for you, let me give you the universal translation of what Brian was trying to say about his previous season. That pretty well sums it up.
Very well done. Well said.
I paraphrased.
Yes. It's a shame you can't dub that over what he was saying.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, there you have the season 3 recap. And as always, we will now have a word from our sponsor.
Can I buy you a drink?
Sure. Heineken?
So...
Thanks.
Nice. Thanks.
You need one?
Yeah, sure. Man, I love your sister. Yeah. What? What?
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the second half of Big Pick 4 preseason show, where the NFL handicapping experts will pick their predictions for conference finals for next season and Super Bowl. I do want to say, on the review from last season, I believe Danny D, Big D, had the 49ers winning the Super Bowl. Did you not?
Wow. I didn't know that. I got close.
Yeah. I mean, you had them in the Super Bowl, and you said they were going to win. So I think there was some premonition there on the 6. I didn't go back in detail, but I did look at the Super Bowl pick, and I think Dan had the 49ers going all the way.
I think I had 49ers in Houston or something.
Yeah, you didn't have both teams correct, but you did have the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know how far you can go in Vegas. You probably can pick that line and say, hey, whether not saying whether they're going to win or lose, but saying that, well, yeah, because you would just be picking the conference champ. And if you
They have
pick
lines for
San Fran as a
everything,
conference
so I'm
champ,
sure you
you
can
would have
pick
won.
that. You can pick who's going to fumble first.
Yeah, you can pick the length of the Star Spangled
they have
Banner.
lines for everything.
No, the best part of that was where they had an issue with that bet in Vegas because who was it? Was it Christina Aguilera had left out a
She
word
forgot a line,
in the
I
Star
think.
Spangled Banner, and they said, well, you can't take our money on those bets because
Yeah, she missed a
she
line.
didn't sing all the
So
words.
it cut down on the song.
So they ended up like returning all the bets.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, they did some other stuff too a couple years ago. They returned bets on some game because of a referee screw up. I forget what it was, but they did it for some other game too. I think it was that Seattle Green Bay game.
Yeah, you're right.
Where the officials screwed up the end of that game.
Jeremy White can talk about that.
Yeah,
Jeremy
and
White can
called the
Vegas
touchdown?
returned all the money for that because they said it was a screw up, that the game shouldn't have ended that way, that the referees.
Well, that was the Monday night
those
game
guys.
with the
They should bring
refs,
those
wasn't it?
guys back though. They were fun.
They couldn't even mark the ball right.
No, they couldn't mark the ball. There was all kinds of problems. It was so entertaining. Each game took about 7 hours to play. They were the worst. There was fighting between the teams because they knew they could get away with it, and
remember
they wouldn't do
the
anything.
one game where there was a penalty. It was an Eagles game, and they thought that Andy Reid was going to decline it. They didn't even ask him. Remember there was a play where they declined the penalty and he was going to accept it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. They didn't. They had no idea what they were doing in the administration of the game. So those guys were they need to bring them back.
No, I remember it now. It was a scene where the one ref was looking over the Green Bay player with his hands up, and then the two other refs beside him were
incomplete,
signaling that it was
that was terrible.
Incomplete.
That's what finally that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I finally got them back, the regular guys, because I mean.
And when the refs would meet on the field for like
terrible.
A conference,
They
it would
didn't
take
know,
like 30
they
minutes.
didn't know how the timeouts worked. They didn't, like one game I was watching Arizona and somebody, I forget who it was, and the guy got hurt within I forget it was like the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, and they should have charged Arizona with a timeout. I think in the last 2 minutes you have to charge the team with a timeout when someone gets hurt, and they didn't. They just gave him a free timeout. Okay. Because the guy, he's hurt, all right, and they called a timeout, and they gave Arizona a free timeout. I mean, just administrative stuff like that was brutal, and the games were all out of whack because of those guys. So that's not a problem.
But even in the NFL, they still to this day get away with the old fake injury.
That they changed that rule because of that.
Game.
Under 2 minutes,
I mean, I remember the announcers.
Timeout. Or if you don't have any timeouts, you get a 10-second runoff.
Because there was a game last year where the player got hurt and they had to take him off the field. So they got I think the team was winded and they wanted a breather. So then the announcers said, "Wow, I sure hope he's okay." And then of course he was in he sat out one play. He was right back in. And like, wow, I'm just so glad he's okay.
Yeah.
And the announcers
I
were
think
like,
wow,
wow,
I think Chris Collins got the guy. He killed him. Even though he's a boob too, but that's a different story.
All right, so Big Danny D, let's have.
All right, in the NFC, I mean, I don't know who the home team's going to be, but anyway, I think it's going to be Atlanta and New Orleans. I really think New Orleans is going to have a big bounce back year, because Peyton's there, and that division isn't great, and I know they're both from the same division, but I think they're both going to make it, and they're both going to go far. The rest of the division stink. In the NFC, the East is a joke, and the North really isn't great. So I like those two teams. Atlanta is really kind of like a shit or get off the pot kind of year for them because they're going to break that up after this. And then in the AFC, I have Houston and Denver. Denver, I know they're going to lose a couple guys early in the season, and there's some other problems with their executives getting drunk and getting arrested. But that division might be the worst in football with the Andy Reid chefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders, who were the Raiders. Yeah, they all stink. So they're going to win that division by a mile without having to do anything. So, I think those two teams are going to end up there. And then I think they're going to play, I think I said Houston. Houston, I think, is a good team. I think they've gotten a little better with their draft. They got a couple more weapons offensively. Their defense was excellent last year, especially Watt, who's terrific. And I am going out on a limb, make a crazy Super Bowl prediction. I'm going to say New Orleans and Houston in the Super Bowl.
Who wins?
How about Houston? Because I think they have better defense. They'll be able to stop the Saints. The Saints won't be able to stop them. And they have a good running game. So even if the weather there is terrible, they have Arian Foster.
And they have DeAndre Hopkins now, too.
Yeah, I like what's going on. I'll pick them. I saw that.
So pick your Houston
Incredible.
Texans to go all the way. They now have a bigger video screen than Dallas. So they have the not only the biggest video screen in Texas, but the biggest video screen in the NFL.
Huh. That must have cost them.
So,
oh, my God.
Yeah, I think it is in the world. And there's actually 2 of them. There's one in each end zone.
Wow. Must be good for the fans there.
They said it was like, I think, $70 million worth of video screen.
They have to be one of the favorites. Them, Denver, the usual suspects, New England, Pittsburgh, Baltimore is the defending champion.
Houston, you still can't go from being the worst ever to a competitive defense this year. So with Sean Payton back as the coach, I think they'll score a lot of points, but I don't think they're going to go to the conference finals. So I think it's going to be Atlanta and Green Bay. And then in the AFC, me and Dan didn't plan this out. We didn't talk to each other ahead of time, but I have the same picks as Dan. I have Denver and Houston, and I think in the Super Bowl, I'm going to take Houston. I'm going to agree with Dan, but I'm going to say the NFC winner is going to be Atlanta. I'm going to say Houston, Atlanta, and I'm going to say Houston too. I like that DeAndre Hopkins guy they got in the first. So now the teams can't double team Andre Johnson. They still have Owen Daniels. They have a good running game. Matt Schaub is another year more experienced, and the defense is the last couple of years been in the top 5. So as long as I think it's going to be the Falcons, and I think it's win. So put your $20 now. Hopefully it turns into $200 by the first week of February.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Right.
So it looks like the Texans have been crowned, so they could also in the upcoming season as a potential candidate for this theme song. So they could be a Love Train candidate.
Scott, you already made fun of the Eagles. A good early pick would be the Eagles because RG3 is coming off. He's not going to play any games in the preseason. He's going to be rusty. He's coming off the surgery, the ACL tear. And Chip Kelly's offense is going to be so unpredictable. The Redskins they're not going to have any film on them. I think the Eagles could keep it close. I know that the Eagles defense is atrocious, but I think they could keep it close because I don't think the Redskins defense is going to be able to stop our offense.
So if you're saying if the line is like 7, that maybe you would take the Eagles. Like maybe they lose by 5.5, 4 or 5. Okay.
Like if it's anything higher than 4.5, I would take the Eagles.
Interesting.
Because they could cover. I think
you're right. Teams surprise early sometimes, but before teams get film, they get used to it.
RG3 is going to be rusty, and he's going to be playing on,
yeah, and that's still kind of up in the air too if he's going to play.